Gigan.
Jake,
Gigan.
in 30 minutes, we get to play session 1 of Daggerheart. Are you fucking excited?
I'm fucking 3/4 chub at the moment.
Damn. I'm really excited to play, though. We had our session 0, and we went over all the rules, and then we built our world. Everybody added their own stuff. We kind of went around the table asking questions, and everybody added stuff, and we sketched out a map. Like you
Map is
were
awesome.
our sketch artist, and you sketched it out, and then I, in the week after that, went on Incarnate and remade the map digitally. And I got those printed out, so we'll have those today. But I'm really pleased with how it turned out. I think it was sick.
I love Incarnate.
Yeah,
Incarnate, sponsor us, please. You're so good.
For real.
It's
Anybody
one of my
out there,
favorites.
if you're making your map for your D&D campaign or any systems campaign, use Incarnate. It's super, super good. But yeah, we made the map. It looks super awesome. There's tons of cool stuff that I'm excited for you guys to explore. I did some more world building and some lore. You guys made some cool characters. I was really impressed. It's definitely like the Island of Misfit Toys. We have a frog, a mushroom turtle, and a robot. So
that sounds like a bad 3 guys walk into a bar.
Yeah.
Joke.
A little bit of an odd party, but will there be any romance? Unlikely. I don't know if anybody's romancing as a frog or a turtle.
I think the robot and the mushroom turtle are gonna fuck each other at some point.
I don't know how that would work, but I'm curious to find out. We made some. There was like some questions that you answer as a player, or as, for your character about their background, and then you ask some questions to the other players to establish some connections. And some people made some interesting choices that I'm very excited about. You made a connection. Your father is like a crime lord, which I'm very excited. That's going to be interesting.
Whoa. Gotta keep that on the DL. Gavin listens.
Is that spoilers?
Gavin listens.
Well, I think we'll hear about some of it today, so
sure
he won't have
it,
time to be spoiled. But I'm excited. There's some cool stuff, so I'm really excited to get into it.
Looking at the map right now, I love Incarnate so much. This map is so cool.
Mm-hmm. Well, and like I've made maps before from like my own worlds, and like that's one thing to like make a good fantasy map. But for this one, I had to use because we sketched it out beforehand, I had to like recreate it. And I had kind of an interesting, I guess this is a little tip for Incarnate. I had an interesting way to do that. I created my own custom stamp, and I took a picture of our map and added it as a custom stamp, and then overlaid it at a low opacity, so it's transparent. So I used that as a guideline to make like at least like the land masses and like general placement of stuff, because if you look at the 2 maps, the physical one we have and the digital one, I mean, they are damn close. It is almost 1 for 1, which I was very, very proud of myself for.
Yeah, I love the maps. Maps make the game. I think it makes it feel more like you're connected.
Yeah, it's very like immersive to like look at the map and be like, okay, we want to go here. We could travel by this way, or we could go around this way. Like it gives some more options and some interesting choices.
We could kind of shortcut through here, but we're going through the forest. Maybe there's danger.
Mm-hmm. I love it. And I just think it gets players like in the mindset. They're looking at the map, and you get the vibe of the kind of area that you're in, and as the DM, you can definitely describe the weather and their surroundings and the the kind of environment they're in, but it's nice to have a little bit of a backup from the map where players are looking at it and they know that they're going into a swamp or they're going into a desert, or and it kind of gives them some preconceived notions about like what that might be like. They're expecting it to be hot and dry or whatever, that kind of fills in those gaps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's cool. I'm super excited. I'm super excited for next episode when we are going to a deep dive our thoughts on Daggerheart.
Yeah, we can talk about how our first session went and the rules we like or maybe don't like, or I don't know if there will be many don't likes. I'm pretty excited about it, but we'll see. Maybe some stuff plays with it.
It all seems very cool, so I'm extremely excited for it.
Me as well.
All right. Well, I've got a little dilemma here.
Okay, I love a dilemma.
I'm in the woods again. Posts on Reddit. Says help with cheating player. And I'm sorry you wrote like a fucking essay, so I took it into chat and shortened it down to 2 paragraphs. So
summarized.
It's a bit summarized,
but
it hits all the gist, all the spots we need to hit. I'm guest DMing a homebrew murder mystery for a group I've been playing with for about a year. Our house DM, a close friend of mine, brought in a new player a while back, someone he briefly worked with, and that player has been cheating. At first, I wasn't sure, but the signs kept adding up. Constant high rolls, multiple nat 20s per session, and strangely timed failures that always seemed to serve in his character direction. I called him out, I talked to the house DM, and I'm not the only person who's noticed. After some confrontation, the cheater started zooming into sessions and using an online roller, but nothing's changed. I've started logging all of his rolls for proof, hopefully to finally get him kicked out. Though it takes time. The house DM wants concrete evidence before making a move. Now, I'm nearing the end of my arc, and I've got a big moment planned with my BBG, an evil druid who's meant to tempt the party's druid and possibly spark some deep roleplay. But I'm dreading that this cheater is going to hijack the scene like he always does, and he's a showboat, always making the game about himself, and with the ridiculous boosted charisma and suspect rolls, I know he'll try to redeem the BBG with some magical persuasion check that lands because he's cheating. I love when players meaningfully change a story, but that's through dishonest play. I don't want to ruin the experience for the house DM by bringing this up to him. He's a player this time, and I want him to enjoy the story. I just need a way to cheater-proof my BBG without killing the potential for good RP.
Dang. That's really tough. They're playing online, which, like you mentioned, is going to make that more difficult. That's hard to track. I feel bad for him that he's like having to log this person's rolls, you know, as proof.
Is wild.
So, I guess I need a little bit of clarification. So he said that someone else is the house DM.
Let me look at it.
But then at the end of that, it sounded like he was DMing. So I'm a little... He's
a guest DM.
Okay. So he's not the normal DM, but he is DMing the thing they're currently playing. Interesting.
Yes.
And so if someone's going to kick a player out, it's going to be the person who is...
the house DM.
Normally, the normal DM.
Is who they call him.
Sure. The house DM. I like that. So that's interesting. So he's relying on that person to potentially kick a player out.
Mm-hmm.
I feel really bad that he's logging
the house DM is the one that he invited him.
Oh, that's a little tough as well. Okay. He's in a really tough spot for a couple of reasons. One, you're playing online, which not having that like in-person communication and things is challenging. It also does make it very easy for somebody to cheat because you can't, like when we're all sitting at the table, I can watch you guys roll and I can see your rolls. Like there's no way to cheat really.
Well, it sounds like he started out in person because he said he switched to online.
Oh, so when he said he switched, and I saw that he switched to an online roller, but he said so he started using Zoom to do the session. So they were in person. He then zooms in and interesting.
Yes, he's only played in person a handful of times and now zooms in. Okay. And it's been since the complaints about the dice that he zooms in.
Oh, interesting. So, I think I would start. He's already brought up his concerns to other people, so like that communication is there. So maybe after a session, after that guy disconnects from his Zoom, whatever, and you're there, physically with the other players, I would talk to the house DM, and I would, present the problem that he wrote in the prompt. I would say, I have this big BBG thing coming up, and I'm really worried about, him having a really high roll, and not, and kind of subverting that fight or that boss or whatever, and see if that DM has any advice or anything more to say about like the person that thinks is cheating. If that doesn't really get anywhere, I would say a couple things. a persuasion roll, I think we've mentioned before, is not magical, nor is a deception or a nat 20 persuasion roll or a 37 persuasion roll with modifiers, like anything like that, is not an auto success. A nat 20 persuasion roll is the most convincing your character could possibly be. But if a BBG is completely stalwart in their beliefs and in what they're doing, that may not sway them. You could make like an interesting kind of hitch in their train of thought where they for a moment maybe they're conflicted, but then they fall back into it. And then as far as if there's like any other spells or mechanics you're worried about, your BBG can be immune to charm or immune to fear or things like that. If you're worried about somebody really breaking a fight in that way.
Yeah, immune to charm is good because then they can't just like show up with a fucking charm person roll and then persuade him to be good.
Yeah.
Even though like a charm person roll wouldn't, I mean, after an hour they'd be like, "Oh, you cast a spell on me, I'm gonna kill you still."
Yeah, I'm not sure what level they're at. They could have like dominate person or something though too. Could have some higher level ones like that.
Yeah, it doesn't say what level, unfortunately.
But I feel like that kind of covers multiple routes of like either you continue to open up that communication and address your thoughts because kind of it seems like he's not in the position to kick this guy out. Maybe he would if that was his call. And as someone who has kicked out a player, it's horrible. It's the worst ever. It's a horrible conversation. It does not feel good at all, especially because these people are, in a lot of situations, people you are friends with or at least friendly with. And it sucks really bad. So I think even if he could, he might, be hesitant to do that. And so, yeah, I think just being open and honest. And, you could, it sounds like that player's already been confronted, but you could talk about it again and say, hey, like, I just have some stuff coming up. And, the way that these roles have been going and, some of these moves have been going, I'm really worried about it, and I just want to make sure that everybody's playing in interest to the story, not trying to, like, break my encounters or break the story,
Yeah, I mean, that could be something you say in session.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that if you're suspecting this, I'm sure all the other players are also suspecting this.
Right.
Because, I mean, no one rolls. He said that it's he almost never rolls below a 16.
Yeah, that's a little crazy. Which, if he's using the online roller, I don't know. You'd think that would fix that, but maybe he has a way to cheat that as well, too. I don't know.
Yeah. I weighted dice on Ryan.
or like maybe he has like a modifier added onto it that's higher than it should be, or or that they can't see. I don't know.
Yeah. It seems this guy's pretty new and no one knows him very well, considering that the one guy briefly worked with him is what it said. So the kicking him out part probably wouldn't feel too bad. Fortunately enough, and I'm sure that the person who wrote this definitely doesn't feel too bad, since the only experience they have with this person is them cheating on on the thing he's been DMing.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah, gathering his dice rolls to see how he's been doing is fucking crazy. For like a player, also, like I'd be pissed off if like I noticed that someone was constantly rolling really well, and especially if you suspect him of cheating in some sort of way. Like not that some people don't just have good streaks where they're just rolling like a handful of really good dice, but accountability is something that you definitely have to have, and you definitely have to be humble about yourself, and not everything is about you. So the dice rolling is a way that shows whether you success or fail at things, and then the story moves on from there. So it's like reductive to just always succeed, because in real life you don't always succeed. And I mean, it could be like the person projecting, like maybe he thinks he's a fucking failure or something, but that's a little deeper than
Yeah.
than it probably is. But I don't know. It's just such a shitty situation to like throw your friends in.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing, right? Is like, and we've said before, you play these games to tell a story and to spend time with your friends, and to do something cool and create cool story or interesting story. And it's so unfortunate that people feel like pressured to do well or to cheat because they don't want to roll low. And it's like, if you have a good DM, like they're not out to get you. Even if you fail a roll, they're not going to be like, oh, and your character dies, and you suck, and and that's it. Like, they're gonna weave it into the story, and your character failing, could be really cool. They could, have a moment of weakness where they, fail on a couple things, and then, it inspires them, and then you start rolling well, and they kind of come back and, fight even harder, and they do cool stuff. Like, it can all be folded into the story to make some really cool moments. And especially if you succeed in everything you do, like, I don't understand how that's fun. The possibility of rolling low and having things not go well is what makes it exciting, that luck aspect. So I just, I don't get the...
Yeah. There's no tension if you're going to cheat in rolls.
Right.
Like, it's not interesting. It's not exciting. It's like, oh my God, the DM's put me in this horrible situation and he's asked me to do this check. This is, my blood's pumping, the adrenaline's going. Oh, I rolled a 2. I'm going to say I rolled an 18.
Yeah, like it's just, I don't know. It just seems so unfun for the player and the rest of the group. It really just ruins it for everybody.
Yeah, I would, I mean, if you want this situation to stop very quickly, you should say, yep, I have to look at your dice. Your dice have to be in front of the entire table. And if that can't happen, then I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. And honestly, like, you could frame that in a way of like, hey, like we need you to show up in person. We want to be playing in person. Right. And so that, kind of solves part of the issue. And then if that player wants to play, they show up in person with everybody else. And, you could gift them a dice set. Be like, hey, rules have been really weird. Like, I don't think, I don't necessarily accuse you of cheating, but like things have just been so strange. Maybe the dice set you got has some weird stuff going on with it. I don't know. So here's a dice set. If you could use this, I would really appreciate it. And, we'll just all roll, and make everybody do it. We'll all roll, in the middle of the table in front of everybody, kind of thing. And, I mean, he has no way to get around that. That could solve the situation for sure.
Yeah.
And if he's still being shifty and weird and like, rolling the dice and like grabbing it instantly so that nobody sees or something, it's like, and he's like, oh, it was an 18 or whatever, then it's like, hey man, like, we put all these parameters to have everybody roll in the middle of the table and stuff. And it's like, you're still being, really shifty, after some people had thought that you were, cheating. So it's like, clearly like there is something going on, like, and then that gives you more of that concrete proof, that interaction that you all witnessed, you all saw, if you felt like you needed to make a move or kick somebody out or.
Yeah. Dude, the worst thing, if I was DMing and noticed that, like, let's say Big Gavin was cheating.
Yeah.
Gavin was on the podcast. Let's say Gavin was cheating, and I noticed that he was cheating, and I was like, I pulled him aside. I was like, hey, I saw that you rolled not that, and I didn't bring it up during the game. Don't do it anymore. And then I saw it again. I'd be like, I'd call him out table. I'd be like, stop! Don't fucking cheat on your roll.
Yeah, right. And we're all friends, and so we would be able to handle that, amongst ourselves. We did have one player one time who did cheat. We had somebody that was playing with us for the first time, and I watched them roll a 2, and the 2 is right next to the 20, and he just grabbed it and slightly turned it and was like, oh, I got a nat 20. And I was like, and I fully saw it, but I was like, all right, man, cool. Like, roll your damage, double damage or whatever. And I let it slide. That campaign, that was the only, that was a one shot.
That's the only session.
It ended up being, so it didn't matter, but that was, I clocked it and I was like, and it was his first time playing. It was his first time playing D&D. It was his first time with us. So I definitely understand there was probably some nervousness there or some like pressure that, he needed to perform well. So I let it slide. But if that campaign had continued, that would have been something that I would have had to watch out for, maybe mention to him on the side, like you said, like, hey, like, we're just here to have fun, like, don't feel any pressure to roll well, let the failures happen, they can be fun, because he was a new player, and so that's something you do have to learn, it's okay to fail, it's not it's not like Monopoly, it's not like a board game where like it just puts you behind, and so.
Well, I think there's a lot of other I'm pretty sure I've complained about D&D every episode, but D&D is not a very fail forward system.
Yeah.
Where you like get like a failure just feels bad. There's no good thing about a failure. In systems like Monster of the Week, you get like you level up by failing.
Yeah.
That's the only way you level up.
Same thing with Dungeon World.
Yeah, Dungeon World is the exact same way.
So it's like, yeah, you didn't do what you're setting out to do, but here's an experience point, buddy. Like, that's not so bad, right?
Yeah, and usually the failures in systems like that lead to things that were more interesting than if you just succeeded anyways. So
yeah, and those very narrative games of failure can be super interesting because that can take the story in like a crazy direction. Or in like Daggerheart that we're about to play, you can fail with hope.
So fucking excited.
I know. You can fail with hope, and it's like, hey, like you get a hope point which you can spend to do cool stuff. But also, things didn't turn out as bad as they could have. Like let's say you're sneaking past a guard and you fail with hope. It's like maybe the guard sees you, but he assumes that that you were doing something non-suspicious, right? He sees that he assumes you're there to take the trash out or take the
I am
something like that.
So excited to see how you turn like the fail with fear and fail with hope things, because that's something that's just really interesting. That's like what grabbed me when you first like discussed Daggerheart with me. And I was like, oh my god, that's so cool that you can fail and it not be like bad. Like a failure is kind of good in some way.
It's interesting because I like gradients of success and failures. I like having so in Daggerheart, we'll keep using this as an example. You have, if nobody's aware, it rolls with 2 d12s. 1 d12 is your hope die, 1 d12 is your fear die. When you roll, you add them up together for your total. So you roll 2 d12, it's like a 10 or whatever, right? If your hope or fear die is higher, that determines if you rolled with hope or with fear. If you roll with fear, the DM gets a fear point, which they can spend to do bad things to the players. And if you roll with hope, you get a hope point, which you can spend to do cool stuff as your character. And so you can fail with hope, fail with fear, or you can succeed with hope and succeed with fear. Succeed with hope is like the best case scenario. You do what you're setting out to do, and you get a hope point. You inspire other people with your move. Success with fear is, you do what you're setting out to do, but there was a complication you weren't aware of, or there's a consequence that you didn't expect. You lockpick the door, but as you open it, you hear footsteps and you realize somebody's coming down the hallway or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And then failure with hope is, things didn't turn out as bad as they could have, and you get a hope point. And failure with fear is failure with fear is the worst case scenario. That's you failed, and things are like the worst case scenario, But I also love that not only is it kind of a gradient, it's also binary in a way. Like you either succeed or fail, right? Which I much prefer because like in D&D, like a player makes a roll and they're like, oh, it's a 12. And as a DM, you're like, like it's not a great roll, but it's not a bad roll.
That bad.
So it's like, I don't want to punish them. It's like, I really dislike in D&D 5th edition, those like median rolls, rolling like a 10 through 13 is like, it's like,
yeah.
It just feels so
I feel
average.
bad for really fucking you over, but you technically failed. Yeah. But I can't,
Yeah, exactly.
If I let you get away with this, like, what happens next?
Yeah, so I much prefer, like, it either is a success or a failure, and there's some gradient within that. Oh, and then there's also a critical success, which is any doubles on your die. So if on your 2d12 they match, if you roll a 12 and a 12, a 1 and a 1, a 3 and a 3, a 7 and a 7, any numbers that match is a critical success, which I like too, because it's not just waiting for that nat 20, it's not just waiting for that high, super high roll. I love the idea of rolling a 1 and a 1. The worst possible roll is actually a critical success, which means that technically the worst roll is a 2 and a 1 for a 3 is the worst possible roll in Daggerheart. And I'm not sure. I'd have to look at... I'm sure somebody's broken it down. I think 2d12
Yeah, because a 1 and a 1 is a success, right?
Right. Yeah, it's a critical
fucking
success.
Crazy.
So yeah, the lowest roll is a 2 and a 1, which is a 3. So I think that skews things positive. So I think you're more likely to roll a little bit better in Daggerheart, which is nice. I mean, the players, at the end of the day, we want to succeed. We want to do cool stuff. There's definitely still potential for failure, but I do think I don't know. In the comments or send us an email. If you know how that math works on a 2d12 system, how does that skew for the players? How does that end up landing for rolls? I'm very curious.
Do the math, because we can't.
Do the math, because we are stupid. No, I'm very excited. I think it's going to be a very fun system to play. I've got a fun little one. Just fill a little 5 more minutes here or so.
Fuck it. Let's do it.
All right. By Cannibal Corfish.
Cannibal?
Cannibal Corfish. Corphish. Cannibal Corfish. Our DM killed a player tonight and I'm speechless. Now, first of all, you can kill characters. You cannot kill your players as a DM. That is strictly not allowed. Illegal.
Shut the fuck up.
You cannot kill your players, no matter how bad they roll. You cannot kill the players.
I hate you so much.
You can kill your characters, though, and this is what happened.
I can't even.
Sorry, I had to.
I'm so fucking mad.
It couldn't have gone worse. The player, a father of 2, spotted a golden sarcophagus and decided to loot it. Lots of money and jewels, sure. Monies. But also a curse. Any healing received is converted to damage instead for 24 hours. The player gets... Yeah, I know. So it's a rough curse. The player gets low in a very intense fight because they attempted to use a superior healing potion. They are all then slain by a Nightwalker. For those who don't know, if a Nightwalker reduces you to 0 HP, you do not fall unconscious. You die outright, and cannot be resurrected except by a wish spell. Because our player was already in death saves, our DM shouted, "I attack your life points directly," and lunged over the table at our friend, shoving dice down his throat. The paladin tried to perform CPR and failed, while the fighter knocked out the DM. The paladin cried IRL. Then they had an idea. Guess who owed a favor to the DM? The dead player. They crashed it in, pulling the wallet from our DM's back pocket. We called an ambulance on his dime.
I didn't think you would get that goofy.
I know. So this is actually, I baited you a little bit. So this is a little bit of a funny post talking about that idea of so many Reddit posts say we killed players or a player died. And, obviously their character died. Here is the real post that they were parroting. I killed my first player tonight as a DM. It couldn't have gone more perfectly. The player, the one who needed the loot the most out of the group, spots a golden sarcophagus and decides to search it. Lots of useful items, but also a curse. Any healing received damages for 24 hours. We heard that. The player nearly killed themselves in a very intense fight because they had a superior healing potion. They are then killed by a Nightwalker. Nightwalkers reduce you to 0 HP and you die outright. You cannot be resurrected except by a wish spell. I've been waiting for so long to take out my anger and insecurities out on this player. The paladin tried to revive them and failed. The paladin cried IRL. I think I'll ask my girlfriend to make us chicken nuggets after the session to celebrate. Then they had an idea. I forced the players to use their MacGuffin and gave them the wish to bring the dead player back. I cannot wait to find more ways to torment my players. So,
with the context, that just sounds so bad.
Dude, I killed my player, yeah. I
think I'm gonna have my girlfriend make chicken nuggets later.
Yeah, to celebrate, but yeah, killed the character, not the player. And in a very funny way, I do love the curse that any healing received becomes damage instead for 24 hours. That's a fun curse. I like that a lot.
That is a really good curse.
And yeah, a player using a healing potion, especially if they're not aware of what the curse did to them, initially, and then they use a healing potion and they're like, "Oh, it heals for 17," and you're like, "No, it actually damages you for 17."
Yeah, if they forget what the curse was, that's even funnier. Like, oh my god, I'm so low. Funny. Can you heal me, please? Just heals you.
Dead.
You lose 22 HP. You had 1 HP left.
Yeah, so a good curse, but also a funny post. Remember to kill your characters, not your players. We've been the Gelatinous Dudes. My name's Keegan. This is my best buddy, Jake. We are going to go play Daggerheart, and I'm so excited. And next week's episode, we will do a deep dive talking about what we did, how our session went, what we like, what we maybe didn't like, and just how Daggerheart plays. So be on the lookout for that. Leave a comment below. Our email is also in the description. Send us an email if you have any tabletop RPG stories, funny, scary, horrible, or if you just need some advice, let us know, and we'll talk about it. We would love to hear from you guys. All right, we've been the Gelatinous Dudes. Goodbye!
Bye!